Hi there, my name is Zoe and I'm back talking about Brigid today. I work with these Celtic Sovereignty Goddesses as they reveal themselves to me, and they really help me inform my working life. I set up a company that we make woolen products where we're reviving an ancient Irish tradition. Myself and my partner, who is a farmer, we set this up to kind of reclaim our ancient heritage of working with wool in Ireland. It's a long story, but the sovereignty goddesses inform my work, have been my guides for this, and they're also very much guides in my personal life, in my spiritual journey and my inner work. So I've been working recently with Brigid, who guided me to, sometimes I'm called to go to places, especially across Ireland, but this time I was guided to go to a place in Portugal where I was on a family holiday there in just a couple of weeks ago. And Brigid had shown me, like they show me sometimes places, locations, sacred sites which have been desecrated, where things have happened to disrupt the energy and various things to take away from the natural power of those places. So she had told me, guided me to go to this little church in Portugal outside Lisbon. So I was near there, so I went there with my partner and our baby to do a ceremony. I didn't know what I was going to be doing, but she guided me. And what happened there is basically, it's a very interesting story, and it's very similar and it parallels with a lot of stories of what happened to ancient, powerful, divine feminine leaders. So Brigid was, she's a well-known spiritual figure. She's a saint here in Ireland. She's also revered as a goddess, as a druidess. She transcends both these roles, and she also, her legacy carries throughout the globe. Many people have a relationship with Brigid. So basically what happened was she founded a fire temple in Ireland, in this place in Kildare, which was it was an ancient fire temple where she was a very powerful druidess and ran a school of priestesses, of druidesses, who were all, I believe, divine birthers, practicing divine birth, practicing the working with the balance of masculine and feminine energies, the inner Iris Gamos, within and without in their relationships. So she was a very powerful leader in these teachings and at that time. So when she that on that site now sits a very, like a cathedral, which is called Brigid's Cathedral, but the original remains of the temple are still there. So however many years ago, her remains were dug up from this location, and they were taken to the north of Ireland to be, by the Catholic Church under the guise of, it's so terrible, really, but to dig up anybody's remains. But they were dug up and brought to be buried with two men, two masculine saints, apparently St. Patrick and I can't remember who else, in the north of Ireland, which, I know it was, was an agenda to dismember her, essentially disturb the bones. That's a very, disrespectful, desecrating ritual to do that, to disrupt the power. I believe that was done with an agenda. So, and then to bury her in a place surrounded by two masculines, which were, so she showed me this is just an attempt to, an attempt of suppressing that powerful divine feminine leadership energy to disrupt it, and to, it's like just like a spell to go and place it in this other location, like suppressed, buried with these masculine energies, which, you know, Brigid was showing me that the sovereignty goddesses at that time, they were really here on this planet to uphold the sacred laws and practices that were informing the land, informing their communities, raising the vibration, keeping the vibration of the land in unity, in a unity consciousness, in a balance of the sacred divine masculine, divine feminine energies. And when this was all disrupted, as I know most people, anyone listening to this will understand all of that. How they've shown me is that it was like the masculine energies were infected, to become this toxic wounded masculine, which then, suppressed the powerful feminine energies, which were in rightful balance at that time before this split. So this was just, as she showed me, just another practice, just another way at carrying out these disruptive rituals, where on top of these very powerful rituals that they had been doing on the original sacred template of the earth and the land. So after that anyway, the story is, after that, some other years, I can't remember the timelines are so confusing to me, because it's just history times just don't resonate with me, obviously. And anyway, sometime after that, the story goes that 3 knights, Irish knights, which she showed me to be, again, this, the story goes, the gentleman knights took her skull from this other location in Northern Ireland and brought it to Portugal. And on the way there, when they got there, they were on a mission to bring the skull to some high holy Catholic person. And on the way there, they got killed or it got disrupted. Somehow her skull ended up in this little church, which is now a church outside Lisbon. And various stories around this, that it kind of magically stayed there, magically appeared there. And then the local priest said, oh, it belongs here. So they took the skull to this little church, which is now a more modern church that was built on an ancient church, which I believe was built on an ancient sacred site, which is this beautiful grove of olive trees, which I believe was a goddess worshipping site. So even though she got taken, she ended up in not a bad place, I don't think. Either way, the story goes, these knights took her skull, and she is now, weirdly, this portion of her skull is buried, is held within this wall of the church, and then 3 knights are also buried within this wall, so they're all encased together. It's weird. And again, it's like a replication of her bones being taken away in the first place from her own resting place, taken, disrupted, buried with masculines that were, hijacked masculine, toxic masculine energy, again taken by 3 knights, which she's shown me were, again, not the true divine masculine energies. They were the wounded masculine energies, taken and brought to Portugal and to be used as a relic. So the purpose of this was to take her skull, like in this, almost like this ritual of beheading, so dismembering, removing the power, taking the head off something is a military term, I believe, to, disrupt the power. That's what she's explained to me. So that was the attempt at those rituals. So, and then to like almost suppress them with these masculine energies. So that's where her skull is. It's funny because you can like read this online. Not many people know it, like not many people talk about this, but yet it's accepted. And you go there and they're like, oh, we have Brigid's skull, and you know, and they take it as a blessing. All the farmers used to bring their cattle to this church and walk them around and receive the blessing from Brigid. So she's still blessing and doing good, and that's the power of Brigid, no matter what. Her legacy continues to bless people, no matter what happened. So anyway, she guided me to go there to this location, like and witness what happened. She explained that this was the attempt. It's like this, you know, dark magic spell that was attempted or placed over her, this dismemberment, which, you know, I know from my own learning from others who have looked into, investigated this has happened with other divine feminine leaders like Medusa's head and these other body parts being taken as relics to be used. So Brigid, I asked Brigid what did she want me to do. She wanted me to go there, do a ceremony, light a candle, she said, and she guided me to, she asked me, I said, like, okay, what am I to do? I thought, like, you know, she'd want me to do some cool, like, recapitation of her head, like send it back to Ireland and, you know, do something kind of powerful. But instead, she was very strong guiding me to go and light a candle in my name and sit in contemplation of the forgiveness of these these knights who brought my skull here. And I was like, you know, what? I was like, first of all, so many of the things that I've seen and they've shown me have been places where the divine feminine, these beautiful sovereignty goddesses, who were in such harmony with the land, in such harmony with their sacred masculine counterparts and the divine masculine energy, they both revered each other. They have shown me so many places where this has been disrupted and desecrated and the feminine has been so suppressed. And it really it can invoke so many feelings in me, so much, you know, so much rage and anger and fury, which I know is, they're emotions which are also associated often with these powerful goddesses like the Morrigan, Maeve, and they're branded with these, you know, emotions. So I often like really have to work through these feelings. And that's why I was slightly irked when she said that. I was like, I don't think you know, I might not be ready to sit with that, you know. So I knew obviously intellectually with all the work I do on myself, yes, of course, that's the right thing to do. But you know, I knew I had to honestly sit with that and feel that. And that involves first processing the truthful feelings that come up, which are all these, you know, rageful feelings of what have happened, these lioness feelings of, you know, protection, of disappointment, rage. So, you know, and really I've sat with them so many times, I've done a lot of work around this, and it always correlates to my inner life, what's going on in my own relationships and how this is healing. So when she guided me to really do that a few days before, I'd been working on it, and when I went to go and sit with that, I really did experience a heart opening, and an understanding, like an embodied understanding, not just an intellectual, oh, it's right to forgive, you know, that's the right thing to do, because that can be fine, but you really need to, it can be fine to say that, but you really need to process feelings in order to genuinely do that. So she, you know, she really allowed me to see that these masculines that took her there were these knights, these wounded knights that were, you know, how did I know that they didn't truly believe they were doing an honorary thing by bringing her skull to this place? And she showed me that's just the manipulation of how these energies have been disrupted, split apart, and hijacked the masculine and the feminine. You know, and in the same separation agenda that suppressed the feminine and did these awful things, the same was happening to the masculine in a different way. So the real agenda is to pit them against each other and make one think the other's doing it to them. But whereas really it's the same agenda working to manipulate both the energies. So she said, if I want, if I get sucked into that rage and not processing it, or that anger or sacred rage, which is fine, but if I don't process it, it turns into a toxic quality in me, and then I'm sucked back into the same separation agenda of splitting these energies, which was the attempt in the first place. And I really had so much compassion come up for the masculine. It was really about understanding the masculine and the wounded masculine and what has happened, and how those beautiful qualities of protector, guardian, honor, all of these qualities have been hijacked, inverted to actually, instead of uphold and honor and hold and provide space for, create a safe space for the feminine to create, was inverted to suppress it. So she showed me, Brigid is famous for, she's very associated with fire and water. And she showed me there was really, that's all I had to do. That's all I was called to do. I was to sit, and I really did experience that in my body, experience that in love, and to sit there and practice that forgiveness and compassion, which was genuine. And she said that, and I was like, well, what about the skull? What about these things that have been done, these spells? And she said, this is really like, if I imagine the divine feminine energy as water, that it can never be changed. It is like that these spells or these negative rituals are like freezing water into ice. So it's a temporary state. It doesn't change the essential true quality of water. It just is a temporary freeze. So I don't need to go and undo things, or mourn or get sucked into the frozen part. I just need to go and witness and be, process that and be able to, attain the love that arises when you sit with and process the parts that need to be seen. And that thaws the freeze, that thaws the ice, that's much more powerful. She said, and that's the power of the divine feminine energy, that we can never be removed. We can, I can't remember her words exactly, were like, it can only be a distraction, a temporary, an illusion. And we can get sucked into that illusion because we're in this density. So like you freeze water into ice in a denser environment, that's what we're experiencing right in this reality. And we can live there, or we can actually, ascend past that to be to go back to the state of water, which is the true essential nature, and then it thaws it anyway. So she also was, talking to me about, her real guidance for me to do this was just to be honest with my authentic feelings that were arising, which first was anger, annoyance, irritation, rage, all these things that came up with the masculine. And then to really see, actually, hang on, we're both on the same side, and this is the whole purpose, to come back to that, that unity, which the sovereignty goddesses really were experts at. Not experts, but they embodied the inner Iris Gammas. She said with fire as well, what she's associated with is that so much can be done through fire. So in that ceremony, I use fire. Fire is a powerful witness to burn away our really strong emotions when we need to sit in them, sit with them. We can use fire as an element to be our witness, to burn through these emotions with us, and to then meld. Fire is a forger of new realities, and Brigid is the patron saint goddess of smiths, who forge metal, and really that's we can use it for both. We can use it to burn through what needs to, and then to forge these new beliefs, these new states, which is what she had me do really for that ceremony. And then so that's just really what she wanted me to share about the power of it's so easy to get bogged down in, oh my god, this happened, or look what they did, or look what this happened. So easy to get sucked into that, or then get sucked into the agendas, the sides, the duality of it. Whereas, if we can go authentically with our emotions through that experience of witnessing, allowing what comes up, processing what comes up, using the elements, using the power of and our relationship with the elements to help us through that process, then we arrive at a new state of being, more unified state. And that's the healing that we need to do for ourselves, but also for these areas. She shared with me a mantra that I always hear with her, like especially around her fire temple, which is just very simple, is I am healed, I am reborn through my sacred holy fire. And we used to say this in like a ceremony together in ritual, like we are healed, we are reborn through our sacred holy fire. And just that mantra is really powerful to repeat it. And yes, that's the point. Through our sacred holy fire that's within us, it's our divine spark. It's not her fire. Her fire is the same as our fire. That's always what she wants to share. So I hope that was interesting. It was so interesting to me to find out that Brigid's skull was in Lisbon, and also interesting to go through that. I hope that was interesting, and I hope you have a lovely day, and I'll see you soon.